Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect
every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories on how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by Muslim, our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
heads of state and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
His Excellency Lagos, Nigeria for Spectrum TV to recover 40 lives in the county.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news briefing Spectrum. Live from Uyo, I am Mary Joseph. Our news brief today begins with a report that President Bola Tinubu has called for the support of state governors in the task of turning around Nigeria's economy. He stressed that significant steps has been taken by ending the fuel subsidy and unifying the foreign exchange rates. Tinubu made the call at the inauguration of the National Economic Council (NEC) yesterday in Abuja. Tinubu also listed 8 priority areas of urgent attention and called for collective frameworks that would stimulate a buoyant economy that meets the needs of the poor and vulnerable. In the meantime, following the removal of fuel subsidy, the National Economic Council (NEC) has made moves to provide palliatives for workers and vulnerable groups in the country to ameliorate the impact. The council, after its inaugural NEC meeting yesterday, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, announced that it would set up a committee to work out within 2 weeks the modalities for organizing and distributing the palliatives. On electoral matters, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Yakubu Mahmood, is to appear before the Presidential Election Petition Court today to tender the certified true copy of the voter register used by the Commission for the 2023 presidential election. Yakubu, who would be accompanied to the court by the top officials of the electoral body, was summoned by the court at the instance of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), Atiku Abubakar, in the February 25 presidential election. We head straight to the foreign scene where veiled forces, winds and heavy rains are lashing coastal parts of northwest India and southern Pakistan as a powerful cyclone makes landfall. More than 170,000 people in the two countries were evacuated to safety before the arrival of Cyclone Biparjoy. Forecasters said it could be the area's worst storm in 25 years and warned it threatens homes and crops in its path. We head straight to sports where Joselu scored a late winner as Spain beat Italy to set up a Nations League final against Croatia on Sunday, 18th of June 2023. Yeremy Pino won the ball of Italy legend Leonardo Bonucci outside his own box before firing into Spain's opener in Enschede, Netherlands. Cyril Immobile equalized for Italy with a penalty after Spain debutant Robin Lenormand handled in the box. We'll have details of this and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rising Channel where we have Janice and we are on standby. Do have a wonderful weekend.
Heads of state and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
His Excellency Lagos, Nigeria for Spectrum TV to recover 40 lives in the county.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect
every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on StarTimes
to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories on how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Mary Joseph just brought us tidbits of global news. And of course, if you're not following us on social media, you are already missing a whole lot. We've had some conversation on Rise and Shine already. First on our list this morning was the fact that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appointed Nuhu Ribadu, former and initial EFCC boss, and 6 others into some special advisorial positions. Of course, we also saw the fact that the president inaugurated the National Economic Council, let them bring together policies and programs that will move the economy of the country forward. Back here on our home soil, Akwa Ibom State, we saw the governor, Pastor Omoino, take out time to visit and speak with some police children around his environs at the Hilltop Mansion. Of course, this has made a lot of people to tag him humane. These and more are some of the conversations we've had so far on Rise and Shine. You need to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter to be able to catch up on all this. At this point, we move straight up to Daily Spotlights, where we bring you information from the front pages of the national dailies.
Okay, let's look at the big stories on our national dailies this morning. But I remember when we had a conversation about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu appointing 8 special advisors, and I told you, I said the next thing is going to be ministerial appointments. Yes. And we have that a lot of jostling for our ministerial appointments is ongoing as we speak.
Of course. And let's look at, will soon call them out also.
Yeah.
As you're dancing. Get the work done.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes.
And you know some other thing that is trending on the heels of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Like, I saw that on social media and I was wondering where that was coming from. Just yesterday I got to find out that allow them to breathe. It is their responsibility. It started trending on social media. So the slightest thing you do, it's allow them to breathe or allow us to breathe. And I was like, where's this coming from?
Where did that come from?
And I hear it was a comment made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So I had to do the research myself. And lo and behold, it was actually him saying it. Allow them to breathe. So let's find out. Let's find out what the papers have for us this morning. Of course, we will breathe. The president has said allow them to breathe, and that's why he's putting his cabinet together to make sure that Nigerians actually breathe some air of fresh air.
Allow Nigerians breathe. Nice one.
Okay, so we're looking at the Punch newspaper this morning. The big story here says, APC bigwigs jostle for ministerial slots Tinubu names 8 special advisors. We have the rider as saying party chieftain favor Keyamo Omoagege Fayemi Adeyeye Ganduje Marafa others. And we have a new appointed SA on monetary affairs. Alake gets communication. Ribadu handles security. And of course, we have pictures of some of the special advisors here on the front page of the Punch newspaper. EFCC summons Sirika, quizzes Nigeria air officials. Okay, we have that on page 29 of the Punch newspaper. Moving forward, probe begins as OAU student dies of suspected suicide. Sad story there. Page 4 is where you get that from. Yesterday I was talking about mental health. Boat tragedy. Federal government vows prosecution of operators. I think that's some kind of relief now. We have that on page 15. We move forward now. Naira weakens to 702 per dollar. CBN fresh FX supply likely. Okay. Tinubu economic advisors propose custom NIMASA FIR measures. And then on fuel subsidy, NEC moves 702 billion naira as workers' allowances. We have that on page 11. And that's all of the stories that we have on the Punch newspaper.
Moving from the Punch this morning, let's look at This Day newspaper, and the big story on This Day says Tinubu lists 8 priority areas on development, 6 government support, governor support. NEC proposes palliatives for workers, vulnerable groups over subsidy. Mills payment of 702 billion naira to civil servants as cost of living allowance. Federal government seeks World Bank funds to implement CNG. President appoints Ribadu Edu Irake. 5 other special advisors. Meets with Abdulsalami Sanusi Akande at State House. Ex-head of state pleads for people's understanding over subsidy removal. We also see here Abdul Karim Chukul takes over as acting chairman EFCC. Page 14 is where you can find details of that. Oil marketers demand full payments for outstanding petrol equalization arrears. Say price of 45,000 litre truck jumped from 7 million to 25 million naira. Insist no funds for new stock without debt settlement. Crude oil refiners back subsidy removal. 6 CBN's intervention for Medilla refineries. Wants transition to Naira transaction supply certainty. Okay, we also see here Goldman Sachs. Naira devaluation not sufficient condition for exchange rate unification. Wants clarity on FX restrictions. Okay, Health FX unification says $12 billion needed to clear FX backlog. Currency unification jerks public debt to 82 trillion naira. Naira depreciates further to 702 against $1 on I and E FX window. Revenue urges, Rewen urges federal government to drive institutional reforms, insists lower interest rates not possible with strong currency. Of course, there is a story there. Meet Tinubu's advisors, page 34, and that's all we have on the front page of This Day newspaper.
We'll take a glance now at the Nigerian Tribune. The big story here on the Nigerian Tribune is poor economy. We asked for tough job. We can't complain, Tinubu tells governors. You can get that story on page 3. But the writer of the story says NEC moves to provide palliatives for workers, vulnerable groups. Federal government to seek World Bank funds to implement CNG. Moving on now, we have that rising food prices push inflation rates to 22.4%, says MBS. Why IGP sealed 17 local government secretariats in Plateau. Governor calls for calm. You have that story on page 28. Alleged sale of government property. ICPC arraigns Ojerinde, sons, daughters-in-laws in fresh suit. Okay. Over 150 anti-graft CSOs celebrate Bauer's suspension. Oh, wow. And we continue now. The writer says call for thorough investigation over allegations. We are over 150 anti-graft CSOs celebrating Bauer's suspension. Now, when he was in power, I wonder why, they didn't call for his suspension. Everybody seems to be quiet.
They might have called for it, but then it was hush-hush within the parastatal.
Okay. Tinubu appoints Ribadu Alake, Edun, Adedeji, 4 others as special advisors. Of course, we have their pictorial stories also on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. INEC tenders Tinubu's biodata form. Beavers report for 36 states and FCT. And the writer says, as Yakubu sends representatives to present 4 out of 11 documents listed in subpoena, Obi Labour Party tender over 18,000 blood pooling unit results in evidence. Page 29 is where you get details of all of the stories. And of course, reps reject motion to stop Japa syndrome. The writer says motion is breach of 1999 Constitution. Page 12 is where you get that particular story from. And those are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, moving from Nigerian Tribune this morning, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. What does Nation say? Big story, workers to receive cost of living petrol allowances. Some good news coming there for workers in the country. Federal government, states propose palliatives to cushion effect of petrol subsidy withdrawal. We also see here Ribadu Edun, Wamogu Alake among 8 presidential advisors. Page 5. Obi LP tender 18,088 blood results sheet. Page 5. Rising basic cost of living push inflation to 22.41%, and you can find that story on page 7. Naira closes at 702 per dollar at I&E window. Kidnap suspects kill farmer. Okay, we also see here Abdusalami Akande Yakasai, Tinubu on track. President's decision bold, says Sanusi. We also see here Sanwo-Olu Buratai. Others pay tribute to Abibatu Mogaji. Page 6. Ozehome Ejiofo. We remain Kanu's lawyers. Reps get 7 ad hoc committee. And these are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's see what Daily Sun has for us this morning. On Daily Sun. Daily Sun says, presidential election timetable, new twists in INEC, Obi Atiku legal battle. Okay, and we also see that Tinubu mandates NEC to revive economy. Of course, one story that cuts across all papers this morning. Tinubu appoints Ribadu Alake. We've seen that already. AG EFCC chair Chukwu takes over. Bauer faces multiple probes. You can find that story on page 11. Ijaw lawmakers protest alleged remapping of Akwa Ibom local government areas. Okay. Page 27 is where you get that from. I know that remapping issue has been one very controversial one during the regime of former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel. Okay. I know that the people around the Oron axis were more like those that were frontiers of some kind of protest, saying that the governor was more or less trying to be very sentimental in terms of the remapping issue of Akwa Ibom State, of some local governments in Akwa Ibom anyways. Exchange rate unification, market in panic over petrol prices. Page 2 and 25 is where you get that story from. The writer says petrol subsidy removal spikes inflation rate to 22.41%. And we also have here on Daily Sun, anti-graft CSOs defy rain and celebrate Bauer's suspension. The writer says, Hail Tinubu for determination to right wrongs in critical areas. Okay, page 4 is where you get that from. And moving forward, Nasarawa Assembly crisis, IGP urged to call CP to order. Page 26 is where you get that. And still on the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, it says Nnamdi Kanu sacks Uzokame Jofo as cancelled. Oh wow. Page 27 is where you get details of that story from. And that's just all about the stories that has graced the front page of Daily Sun this morning.
Let's move down to the Vanguard newspaper and see what Vanguard is saying. Okay, big story, of course. Tinubu to NEC. No excuse for failure. NEC considers paying financial support for vehicle manufacturers to approach World Bank for loan. Daily fuel consumption drops from 66 million to 41 million. Page 5 is where you can find details of that story. Inflation hit 18-year high at 22.4% to surpass 23% this month. Page 19 is where you can find that story. EFCC CBN chief Agbakoba asked Tinubu to remove INEC chair. Page 9. TUC to federal government, watch out for forex speculators. 7.9 billion naira fraud. Court halts trial of ex-minister Odua over threat to George. Page 11 is where you can find details. We lose another one in Nollywood. Don Brimo Uchebu slums dies on location in Port Harcourt. Such a sad story. Page 7. May his soul rest in peace. And we also see here National Economic Council inauguration. Of course, there's a picture story there. Presidential poll. Over 18,088 results. INEC uploaded. Bloor Obi's witness 33. Page 33 is where you can find that story. Tribunal. Tinubu kicks as court admits INEC's exhibit containing his biodata. Page 8 is where you can find that particular story. Parents raise alarm over alleged fees hike. Unity schools. Page 9 is where you can find that story. Federal government appoints FBI Academy alumnus Chukwu as AG EFCC chairman. Page 9. Subsidy. Oil marketers plan petrol import as CBN floats Naira. Page 9 is where you can find that particular story. And in sport, Messi scores fastest career goal in Argentina win. And that's all we have on the front page of the Vanguard.
Okay, those are all the stories making it on the front pages of our national dailies this morning. But just looking at some of the very interesting stories, of course, this one on the Punch newspaper that says APC bigwigs are jostled for ministerial slots. Tinubu names 8 SAs. It takes my mind back to some conversations that was had with the president, where he made mention of the fact that people that lost elections, that's governors that lost elections, would not be left out of his administration, more like he was going to settle them. So would we be seeing, you know, the president now use ministerial positions to settle some of these governors that lost their election bid and all of that? But again, I know that not a lot of Nigerians would like to buy into that argument, yeah, where you're saying that because governors lost elections, let them come on board. It's more like a compensation and not exactly looking for people who have capacity to do the job. So that's going to be a big one. But we just hold our hearts, you know, to when this will eventually be done. But the jostling has started already. Of course, different states of the 36 states of the Federation will be sending nominees for ministerial positions very soon. So we will be seeing how all of that will also be translating into moving the country forward.
Well, these are good things, good times, great expectation. The atmosphere is thick. Also, still in terms of expectations, we see that the federal government is getting some work done to give workers in the country cost of living and petrol allowance. And then there's a bill of about 720 billion naira to be able to fit that across the country. That sounds like good news, but then we're also going to be thinking of the financial implication on the country at this time, alleviate the sufferings of workers. So we are thinking federal and state workers, at this time. That sounds good.
Yeah, definitely.
So those are some of the big stories that we have on the front pages of our national dailies. Of course, as we had earlier conversed, the appointments of the special advisors to the president, no excuse for failure, he tells them. Now, there was something I saw here, TUC to federal government, watch out for forex speculators. As the Naira had been floated, there's going to be a lot of back and forth with regards to all of this. You're going to have all kinds of speculation, and people will also need to be financially careful in this particular season. But of course, that's TUC sending out like a warning of some sort to the federal government.
Okay, I think we'll just at this point take a breather and then join Judo Joe from Lagos State and look at our focus conversation this morning. So do stay with us and don't move a muscle. We'll be right back shortly. Remember, it's Rise and Shine.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect
every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times
to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories, and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Ibro.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading.
Amazing Country, Nigeria, legally speaking. Join us every Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for Legally Speaking.
One
Our number 3 man in this country is from Akwa Ibom. And across party lines, we should celebrate. That means development, we can now link our state to the center, and we can collaborate together, and that's what it is. So we congratulate him, and I know that this is a great milestone for Akwa Ibomites, and every Akwa Ibomite across party lines should be happy and thankful to God. Thank you. Our number 3 man in this country is from Akwa Ibom, and across party lines we should celebrate. That means development, we can now link our state to the center, and we can collaborate together, and that's what it is. So we congratulate him, and I know that this is a great milestone for Akwa Ibomites, and every Akwa Ibomite across party lines should be happy and thankful to God. Thank you. Our number 3 man in this country is from Akwa Ibom, and across party lines we should celebrate. That means development, we can now link our state to the center, and we can collaborate together, and that's what it is. So we congratulate him, and I know that this is a great milestone for Akwa Ibomites, and every Akwa Ibomite across party lines should be happy and thankful to God. Thank you. Our number 3 man in this Come. Come. Who is the senior person? How are you? Good afternoon. What of daddy and mommy? Okay. You are police children?
Yes.
I'm a police child too. So someday, when you read your book and grow, you too can become governor, you can become senator, you can become president, you can become doctor, you can become lawyer. Okay? Don't let anybody deceive you that police child cannot become anything. You know, you are what God said you will be. Okay? So take this, go and share. Who is the most senior person here? Oh yeah, come, auntie. Good news. Okay. You are good news. I won't forget your name. Oh. Make sure you share it. Don't cheat them. Okay, take.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome back. Still on Rise and Shine this morning. Of course, we are going straight to our focus conversation. We are looking at the recent appointments and also suspension under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And joining us this morning is Jido Joe. Of course, is joining us from Lagos. Jido Joe is the Executive Director of Oja Development Consult. He's an author, columnist with The Punch, and host of Development Focus with Jido Joe on ITV, and of course a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much, Jido Joe, for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Okay, so your cap this morning looks like that of the South Southerners.
Yes, one Nigeria. Congratulations to uncommon governor.
Uncommon president. Uncommon Senate president now.
Uncommon governor, uncommon president of the Senate.
Yeah.
Goswe Akpabio.
Yeah.
We are one Nigeria. So, and by the way, I'm joining you from Abuja.
Okay, you're joining from Abuja. Thank you for that correction. I think I would start on that note. How is the Federal Capital Territory looking like this morning?
Everything is calm. We thank God for the success of the 10th National Assembly inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very tense moment for many of us. We were not too sure how things will pan out. It has come and gone,
Yeah.
and then of course we have had some suspensions and appointments. The nature of life. Some will cry, some will laugh, some will smile, some will moan. We just pray to be on the right side of history. But again, every new administration comes up with their own peculiar way of governance.
Okay, now
But
Jidojo, talking about some crying and some jubilating and being happy. Let's even talk about suspensions. Let's start from there now. A lot of people actually saw the suspension of the governor of Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, coming. It didn't come like a surprise at all. But did it surprise you when you heard that of Abdurrashid Bawa, chairman of the EFCC? Did it come as a surprise to you?
Exactly, it did. I knew that Godwin Emefiele's time was up. If he had been manly enough, he should have resigned before the inauguration of Tinubu. But perhaps he has his asthma, and he has his gunpowder dry, and he's ready to fight like a man. Perhaps he has his reasons for staying on. However, for Abdurrashid Bawa, I thought different, not because there are no controversy surrounding his office. Recall that in the weeks preceding the inauguration, there was a public spat between him and the governor, the immediate past governor of Zamfara State, Bello Matawali, who claimed that he demanded $2 million bribe. And, and the EFCC said Matawali has case to answer and all of that. But my surprise about Bawa's case, and it's very concerning for me, is that here is a very young man, a cadet of EFCC. Imagine as the youngest and non-police head of EFCC. And when you look at his achievements in the 2-3 years he was at the helm of affairs, he has achieved a lot more than his predecessors. The facts are there. Last year alone, I think he has over 3,000 convictions and lost very few cases. Unlike during his predecessors who are losing up to 70% of cases they filed in court. However, even his appointment stirred some measure of controversy.
Exactly.
You will recall that people said he's a cousin to Malami, former Minister of Justice and Attorney General, being that both of them are from Kebbi State. And so that cozy relationship between him and the former AGF really was very disconcerting. And it is believed that Malami was giving him instruction on who to deal with, who not to deal with. We know that the most powerful minister in Buhari's cabinet for 8 years, if you want to count 1 to 3, Malami will be one of them. So, I think perhaps is to, but my worry basically is that we have had 5 executive chairman of EFCC. None of them had completed their tenure.
Exactly, because that's another angle a lot of Nigerians are picking on. When we look at the likes of the one that was before Abdurrashid Bawa, it is still on the same grounds of allegation of corrupt practices and misuse or abuse of office.
So you had Nuhu Ribadu, who was demoted and removed. You had Ibrahim Lamode, again, lots of corruption allegation against him. He was seized out. Then you had Farida Waziri, the only female chairman of EFCC. Again, she left in controversial circumstances. Then you had Ibrahim Magu. Magu was the longest serving, but also was never confirmed as chairman of EFCC on 2 different occasions that he was screened by the National Assembly, by the Senate actually. It was not confirmed, but Buhari kept him in the saddle, and eventually, in a very controversial circumstance, spearheaded by the newly passed Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and the next thing we had was Abdul Rashid Bawa, 41, 42-year-old then, will be the ensman. Now, what were Abdul Rashid Bawa's offenses? Nobody knows. He met with the president shortly before the announcement of his sack, of his suspension. Perhaps he may still retain that seat if the president's investigation reveals that he was not culpable of whatever weighty allegations have been leveled against him.
Is that something that is very possible?
With the past
Gideojo, is that something that is possible? Because we've seen, like we said, established earlier, predecessors before him. Once you hear that you're indefinitely suspended, that's it. That's it. And already someone else has been named as acting chair. But we know that someone said it is not constitutional, but it has become the norm with regards to that particular position.
Likewise, that of the governor of Central Bank. There is no provision for suspension. What should have been done was to write to the Senate to get 2/3 of Senate to endorse his removal. But we knew how Lamido Sanusi Lamido was removed. It was through suspension, and the court said, yes, the president was right to remove him. So, you know, it's not everything that is dealt with on the altar of legality. Sometimes expediency could be the reason. After all the previous ones, one thing that struck me is that all the previous chairmen of EFCC, even though they left in controversial circumstances, none of them have been convicted of the crimes for which they were alleged to have committed. Not the Ribadu, not Lamode, not Waziri, not Magu. Magu was even promoted to AIG.
So it brings us to the question of why then do we have these people? Why then do we have these people suspended? If at the end of all of the investigations, they are not indicted in any way of the crimes that they are being alleged for?
I think it has to do with political interference in the fight against corruption. Incidentally, if you look at the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, ICPC. ICPC have had very stable leadership. From the time of Justice Ayola down to Eta, to Professor Wasonye now. And the ICPC, although may not be dealing with economic crimes stricto sensu, but had enjoyed stable leadership. I think it's more because economic crimes is all encompassing. And who are the major culprits of economic crimes? They are politicians or people who call politically exposed persons. And when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. So there is a new sheriff in town. We know that Matawale was one of those who lost election. lost re-election, but was also one of the 3 governors that sued Buhari over the Naira redesign. And we don't know, maybe he's instrumental in the removal of power. But what goes round comes round. Today, Nuhu Ribadu, that was removed ignominiously, that was demoted from being an AIG to Commissioner of Police, is now Special Advisor on Security. So, the most important thing is that there is a popular saying that a clear conscience fears no accusation.
Okay, before we even go to appointments now, I know that when the issue and suspension, the news of the suspension of Abdurrashid Bawa came, a lot of Nigerians began to point fingers at the next set of people that could possibly get suspensions, and the names of the IGP Baba Usman Baba was mentioned. The name of the INEC chairman, we also have that on the papers, this morning, was also mentioned, and of course the aviation minister Hadi Sarika was also mentioned. So Jidojo, please, can you just build in on this a little bit more? A lot of other people are expected to be suspended as well.
More like speculations of more
yes.
people to be suspended by this administration. And also, just to add there, some people feel like some of these suspensions are some form of vendetta from the president. What are your thoughts about that? Because some of these people seem to have been on the wrong side of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on his journey into the presidency.
So, quite a number of people speculated about the removal of Ibrahim Usman Baba, the IG, the INEC chairman. But don't forget, you can't remove an INEC chairman when election petitions are still in court. That would be self-indicting. It then means that you believe that he didn't conduct credible election. And on 2 occasions that President Tinubu has spoken about the 2023 election, he had given it a pass mark and even said it's the best election so far. So on what ground will you now say you are suspending INEC chairman? So those who are, I know Lisa Agbakoba issued a statement asking that INEC chairman be suspended, but that's not going to happen. If somebody assisted you to office, will you pay him back with a snack? So people should be very mindful of what they ask for. More so, you cannot remove an INEC chairman like that because there is no provision for suspension. No former INEC chairman had been suspended. Well, let me not say that because I think Professor Morris was more or less suspended and asked to hand over to the most senior national commissioner. But in this particular instance, if at all anything will happen to Professor Mahmood Yakubu, it will be after the whole electoral adjudication process may have been concluded. And if there are damning evidences that under his watch, there were very badly conducted elections, maybe a president may deem it necessary. But people need to understand that the challenge with our election is not even with the election management body. It's even with the politicians, the politically exposed persons. They are the ones that are even undermining the process. But I don't want to go into that line of arguments today.
Exactly. So you just take on the question I asked. Is the suspension, the recent suspensions that we have seen under this administration, is it a form of vendetta from the president?
If somebody is said to have committed an offense and is suspended and is being taken through the a review process or investigation until when. But don't forget, every political appointment is a biased appointment. I don't know whether you get my drift. Every political appointment is a biased appointment because you are chosen over and above other people. Your preference may not enjoy popular support. It's like the case of Akpabio. You know, imagine the number of people who doesn't want him to emerge. I watched Senator Yari yesterday that as at 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning, 3 a.m., that they had about 61 people they felt were going to vote for Yari, for him. But between 3 a.m. and 8 a.m., the table turned. African magic. So, so in politics, Godwin Emefiele was chosen, and even a court of competent jurisdiction has said that what he did with Naira redesign was not in order. And there are so many swirling controversies around this person. He is the first CBN governor. As a sitting governor, who want to aspire to be president of Nigeria and still retain his position. How do you do that? Somebody who is in charge of monetary policy of a country, who is a banker's bank, you now want to retain your position as governor of a bank, of the Apex Bank, and yet you are contesting for presidency of your country. It's established that it's a card-carrying member of APC. So all of this, then even the timing of the redesigning of the Naira smacks of vendetta. And Tinubu did say, during his campaign, he said this Naira redesign was targeted at him.
Yeah.
So you should know that your enemy, somebody you fought, there was a cold war between Emefiele and Tinubu camp. And everybody thought that it is a political harakiri, a suicide for a ruling party to embark on controversial Naira redesign policy on the eve of an election. They didn't get the politics of that right. You don't do that. It's self-immolation. It's like you set fire on yourself.
So you're trying to say that the suspension of Godwin Emefiele is well-deserved suspension. According to you, he would have...
To the extent of all the things he did, which should not have been done by the head of a monetary policy agency of government. But I've also asked, did Emefiele act alone? There is a board of central bank. What role did the board of central bank play in many of the things he allegedly do?
And let's not also forget, Jide Ojo, that in the few days of his suspension, we have seen all kinds of, financial policies, monetary policies. The Naira has been floated and has been said to have done well 2 days back and all of that. It now seems like, with the presence of Godwin Emefiele as CBN governor, there were some things that were not done right for the economy of the country. But under a few days of suspension, we are seeing and experiencing all kinds of policies that seem to be putting the economy of Nigeria under fresh air. What are your thoughts? Because when you put it in tandem with this suspension, then we cannot really finally say this suspension was a great call, vendetta or not.
Yeah, you are right, my sister here. You are very right, you're spot on, that in the few days of the suspension, rather than the Naira or the economy doing badly, it has actually been positive reaction from the stock market, from the, some of the things that were done in the course of the week has really been positive for the economy. But again, don't forget, as CBN governor, you are subjected to a lot of political pressure from the president, from the kitchen cabinet, from all manner people who are looking for favors. Do you know that a CBN governor can make you a billionaire? in one day without you leaving your room. Under the multiple exchange rate, let me give you this instance. Under the multiple exchange rate, before it was unified a couple of days back, you can get $1 million allocated to you. That $1 million, you get it at official rate, and then you take it to the parallel market and get it exchanged. The official rate of exchange rate could be 470 naira. You take it to parallel market, is sold for 650 naira. Look at what you have gained on each of the dollar.
Yeah.
So and it's a legitimate business. So you are so powerful that you can make people not millionaires, billionaires. And I'm sure he has made so many people. And there are those who will seek that similar favor whom he will not be able to grant because there are limits to what he could do. And of course, you remember that when he allegedly wanted to contest election, a faceless group bought him the 100 million naira nomination form. They call themselves Farmers Union. That because of the money that was disbursed under the Anchor Borrowers Program, they believe he has done so well, and they are buying the form for him. But if they bought one for him, who bought those?
For that particular conversation on Emefiele and all of the suspensions under Bola Ahmed Tinubu, let's quickly look at the appointments he has made so far. 8 special advisors so far, and we have a headline on the Punch newspaper this morning that says APC stakeholders big wigs jostle for ministerial appointments. And then something that is more worrying now for me is the fact that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has made some statements that those governors that lost elections, right, will be compensated under his administration. So what should we be looking out for at this moment? And just quickly look at some of the appointments he has made as well. That of Nuhu Ribadu seems to be the very big one right now on the front burner.
Well, no president will leave and it will be suicidal.
Okay.
What he will do is to balance things. And that's why people, these 8 people that he has appointed alongside the 3 earlier, that's the chief of staff, deputy chief of staff, and then the secretary to the federal government. Those 11 appointments is made in 3 weeks. Actually what you regard as kitchen cabinet. So it will still have to compensate those big wigs in APC, the former governors who did not win the election, and even the opposition. People are speculating that Wike, may also be considered for something. Even Ayade, governor of Badaru that lost election in Kebbi and all of that. So all of them will get something. It may not be ministerial slots, but what about head of ministries, department, and agency? And mark you, there are over 1,000 ministries, departments, and agencies. And tenures are elapsing on daily basis. So it will have to be filling. In fact, what I've advised is that before the tenure of a particular chief executive ends, he should have nominated a replacement so that there is a seamless handover and transition. Particularly for instance, if the tenure of an inspector general of police will end in 3 months, appoint a successor and because you need Senate confirmation. So in the process of screening and all of that, there will be seamless transition. But situations where the tenure of a particular chief executive will end and 2-3 months, somebody is in acting capacity and all of that. And when you are in acting capacity, there are limitations to what you can do because your actions can be reversed by the substantive leadership. So let's not deceive ourselves. Tinubu is a politician and he knows he has people like Ganduje will have to be compensated. People like Erufai will have to be compensated. If not directly, they will have their nominees, their protege, that will be settled. It's pork barrel politics. And you know, in part of the world, and this is a global practice anyway, when people support you and risk all they have for you, you must show gratitude. And showing gratitude is part of giving them appointments or contracts or whatever. So imagine if you want to be Minister of Finance. How many people can be Minister of Finance? Only one person, substantive. So,
but again, Joe, sorry for cutting you. Our time is up though, but let me just quickly say this. It's one thing to say we are compensating people that worked for us, to try to bring the administration on board. It's yet another thing to make sure that these people you're bringing back as old politicians will make sure that they help you achieve something in your administration.
Yes, of course, you can balance things. Mark you, Janice, whether you are a politician, some politicians are medical doctors, they are lawyers, they are accountants, they are bankers. They have their profession before they join politics. So when we say we want technocrats, we want this and we want that, it doesn't then mean that because somebody is a politically exposed person that is not deserving. What is needed is eye on the ball, set targets, give them terms of reference, give them what is called what's it called now? There are specific tasks you give them. If they fail to perform those tasks, you remove them. But what I'm saying is that Tinubu needs to look beyond the political class. Let him look for technocrats outside. I mean, out of those 8 names that were mentioned yesterday, only 3 or 4 are known quantity. Ribadu Wale Edun, who was his commissioner for finance in Lagos, Dele Alake, who was a veteran journalist, also former commissioner in Lagos with him. But others are unknown quantity. The 2 females that were appointed, did you know them before? The Tarazo guy, the Igbo, the guy that's there. I've never heard of those names before, but they have made this first 8, and there are 20 slots to be filled because he got 20 slots from the National Assembly last week. So the point is, it needs to balance things. Compensate people who helped you in your political battle, but maybe that should be 30%. Then look for technocrats, people with value, people who can add value to you, 70%. Because you cannot totally discountenance politicians. Politics has its own optics.
All right.
And you need to play the right politics.
Okay.
So, but as you play politics, also make sure that you give them terms of reference, give them martial order on what they need to deliver on.
Okay.
But most importantly, I don't expect him to have a bloated cabinet of 43 like Buhari had. He should trim it down, possibly appoint less than maybe 36 maximum, which is envisaged by the Constitution, that according to Section 147 sub 3 of the Constitution.
Time. We've absolutely overshot our time, and it's great conversation. We wish we had more time to take this, but we absolutely love how you break down these details for us. Jide Ojo, who himself is a columnist with the Punch newspaper. Great conversation this morning. Thank you, sir, for coming on Rise and Shine. We'll definitely do this again sometime. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Of course, great
and
conversation.
You too. Happy weekend, my sisters. Stay safe and stay blessed.
And you too, sir. Goodbye, Anieke, thank you for taking this journey all week long. We'll see you again next week.
Yeah, my name is Janice Coven. Bye-bye, and thank you for now.